Alright, fellas, today we're going to be talking about the top 5 greatest American fighters of all time to grace the UFC. Now, America is a huge country when it comes to mixed martial arts. I'd argue that America is the best country in terms of talent when it comes to martial arts, right? It just is. Right, it's a bit controversial. I mean, there's a couple of good countries up there. There's Russia, probably number 2, 3, probably Brazil, but America is number 1. Maybe that's because they just have the best fighters. Maybe that's because the UFC and mixed martial arts is an American, well, the UFC is an American company and it's based in America. Maybe it's because, maybe America's bigger, but I don't know. Well, Russia's the biggest, but still. America, you can't deny, is a huge country when it comes to mixed martial arts. And today we're going to be picking out the 5 greatest Americans of all time. And not only are these the greatest Americans, a lot of these are, like, in my opinion, some of the greatest of all time in the UFC, full stop. But we're going to be going straight in there with number 5. I'm going to go with Stipe Miocic, right? You just have to, don't you? I mean, he's 20-4, which is a great record. Stipe Miocic was he was a tough heavyweight, man. He ruled over the heavyweight division for years. He had a couple of losses, Francis Ngannou, the first fight with DC, Junior Dos Santos. So he's had a couple of losses in his career, but over the course of his career, he's been pretty dominant, winning a lot of fights. He's got good wrestling and a good stand-up. I feel like the problem with him, especially against Ngannou, is just that Ngannou was, he's a force, man. His knockout power was crazy. Well, he didn't lose to Ngannou twice. He lost to Ngannou once. But Stipe is one of the best Americans of all times. He was champion and he had 4 title defenses, which is a good amount of defenses. How many champions nowadays actually get to like 4 defenses? But Moreno hasn't. I mean, Pantoja's not got any. Sterling, he's on the road to getting it. Makhachev's only got like 2. So, no, Makhachev's got 1, hasn't he? He's got 1 defense. Anyway, but yeah, 4 title defenses. And in my opinion, he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. Cain Velasquez is up there. There's a couple of people you can put up there, but I'm going to go with Stipe Miocic for being the greatest heavyweight of all time. Just the run that he had in the heavyweight division, he was very dominant. Beat Francis Ngannou the first time, beat DC twice. He's a very, very talented heavyweight, and he's going to be fighting Jon Jones soon. If he manages to beat Jon Jones, then listen, I know everyone's counting him out, but listen, I actually think Stipe has a chance of beating Jon Jones, and I know everyone's going to be like, what are you talking about? But when you come to think of it, stylistically, he's quite difficult for Jones. I mean, he's not a Cyril Gane, Stipe can wrestle, and he's actually got decent boxing, and I know he's old and he's washed, and his last fight was 2 years ago and he got knocked out, but I'm not saying he's going to beat Jones, but I think he poses a bigger threat than someone like a Cyril Gane would, so watch out. If he goes out there and beats Jones, you've got to give him credit. But I just think he's one of the best Americans of all times. Champ, defenses, best heavyweight of all time. I'm locking in Stipe for number 5, and I think we can all agree. Number 4, I'm going with Dominick Cruz. The best bantamweight of all time, in my opinion. I think he's the greatest bantamweight of all time. He did have a lot of flyweight wins, but yeah, Dominick Cruz was insane. In his prime, he was so good on the feet. His head movement. It was kind of like the Floyd Mayweather of MMA. He had some insane head movement. It was hard to hit him. He had fast hands. His wrestling was good as well. Yeah, Dominick Cruz had an insane record, had an insane career. Recently, he's been losing it a bit. He got knocked out by Marlon Vera. But even in the Marlon Vera fight, he was actually doing good. He was actually piecing up Vera a bit before he got knocked out. 24-4. Not a bad record at all. Better than, only 4 losses in the UFC and 24 wins. That's insane. On top of that, he's got 3 title defenses. And he's the greatest bantamweight of all time. And he went on a 12-fight win streak from 2008 to 2016. You've got to include Dominick Cruz in your GOAT record, especially when it comes to Americans. 3 title defenses. And the fact, he just ruled over the bantamweight division. I think he's the bantamweight GOAT. Obviously, Aljamain Sterling's going to be fighting this weekend, and if Sterling beats O'Malley, then you've got to put Sterling in the conversation. But for right now, I'm going to say Dominick Cruz has done, he's done more. He fought in a very tough period. He fought a juiced-up TJ Dillashaw. He's been around for a long time as Dominick Cruz, but he's still good. He's still good. Like I said, the Marlon Vera fight, he was arguably winning. But yeah, I'm going to put Dominick Cruz at number 4 as the 4th best American to ever grace the planet. He's just very talented, isn't he? He's just very talented. He's kind of like a bantamweight Anderson Silva. He kind of reminds me of a bantamweight Anderson Silva, to be honest, with his head movement and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that shades his career is the fight with Cody Garbrandt, because obviously Garbrandt dominated him. But look where Garbrandt's at now. Where's he at? You know what I mean? But yeah, Dominick Cruz, number 4, the best American. He had a great career. Coming at number 3, I'm gonna go big fat boy DC. 22-3, insane record. 4 title defenses again. That's an insane amount of defenses to have. He's also been double champ. How many people in the UFC have been 2 champions simultaneously? We've had who? Conor McGregor, Henry Cejudo, Amanda Nunes, DC, a couple other people. But he's been double champ lightweight and heavyweight, which is a huge accomplishment to have. And I believe he's the only American to be double champ as well at the same time. I know Jon Jones has... Wait, no, I think... Well, obviously we've got Henry Cejudo as well, but... Yeah, Jon Jones was a champion 2 weight classes, but that wasn't at the same time. So yeah, being a double champion light heavyweight and heavyweight was interesting as well. Ruled over the divisions. He's got a win over Stipe, and yeah, he's only ever lost to Jon Jones and Stipe. When you look at that record, 22-3, 2 losses to Stipe and 1 to Jones because the other one was a no contest. That's not a bad record at all. If the only people you've ever lost to is Stipe Miocic, the greatest heavyweight of all time, and Jon Jones, the greatest of all time, that's not a bad record at all. He had some of the best wrestling in the UFC, arguably the greatest wrestler in UFC history. No one could really stop his wrestling besides Jones and Stipe. And he was able to get it done against Stipe the first time as well. It's not like he lost to Stipe every time they fought. So Daniel Cormier was extremely talented. He had that dog in him. He just dominated everyone. No one really, like I said, besides Jones and Stipe, no one really found a way to finish or to stop this guy. It was unstoppable force at heavyweight and light heavyweight. I'm still not sure how he made light heavyweight because look how large he is, man. But yeah, even wins over people like Anderson Silva. And I know that was at Anderson Silva's unnatural weight class, but yeah, you can't lie. DC, he's an All-American. He was one of the best. I would have loved to see him face against Brock Lesnar. That would have been interesting. But DC, in my opinion, is the 3rd best American. He's had such a good career. It's just a shame that his career is kind of ruled over the fights with Jon Jones. But you take away the Jones fights, and he's had a pretty decent career. You can't say that. To say that he's like 22-3. Yeah, DC for me, he's a locked-in number 3 greatest of all time. Coming in at number 2, I'm going to go with Demetrious Johnson. 25-4 is a great record, and here's where it gets interesting. 11 title defenses. You know how good that is. 11 title defenses at flyweight was insane. He ruled over the flyweight division for so long. No one was able to finish him at flyweight. He's the greatest flyweight of all time. I think he beats all the top flyweighters now. I think Demetrious Johnson beats Moreno, Pantoja, Davison Figueiredo, Amir Albazi, Brandon Royval, Kai France. I think he beats all of them. He's so talented. He was very, very well-rounded as well. Insane jiu-jitsu. One of the best finishers in UFC history. And he's still winning today. His career's not even over like the other guys. Well, Dominick Cruz isn't fully retired yet, and Stipe's got a fight coming up. But Demetrious Johnson is still winning today in ONE FC. He's been crushing it in ONE FC. He's so talented, man. Demetrious Johnson, talented. He's one of the most talented fighters ever, and I think he's really underappreciated. Like, people kind of just forget about Demetrious Johnson because maybe he couldn't sell tickets, and you know, there was times when he was literally defending his belt on fight nights. Like, he'd be headlining a fight night, defending his belt, so he was kind of disrespected as a champion. But when it comes to pure talent, he was one of the best. You can't lie. He was one of the best when it came to pure talent. He's one of the greatest of all time. I think he's definitely top 5 greatest of all time was Demetrious Johnson. People need to put more respect on his name. He was talented. He could do everything. And like I said, 11 title defenses is crazy. Like, how? Like, 11? That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy to have 11 title defenses. People argue that, the flyweight division was dead. It was only dead because Demetrious Johnson was destroying everyone he fought, you know. It took people alive like John Dodson, Wilson Reed, everyone that he fought, man. It was just insane. So I'm going to say Demetrious Johnson is the 2nd best of all time in America. But number 1, it's got to be Jon Jones. Not only is he the best American of all time, he's the greatest of all time. I don't think I need to talk about why Jones is the best of all time or the greatest of all time in too much detail. 27-1, one of the best records in the UFC. And in my opinion, he should be 28-0 because the one loss that Well, he apparently lost. He didn't lose. He won that fight. He just got disqualified when he really should have been a no contest, but the referee was trash. So I'm going to say 28-0 Jon Jones, but on paper 27-1, which is arguably the best record in UFC besides maybe Khabib. 13 title defenses. Like, wait, here's me praising Demetrious Johnson for getting 11. 13 title defenses, soon to be 14 when he faces Stipe, probably. Like I said, I still think Stipe has a chance and people are overlooking him, but he's most likely going to get it done against Stipe. So 13 current title defenses is crazy. Like, imagine not only winning the belt, but then 13 people in your career come up and say, I want the belt, and you just say, no, I'm not having it. Like, that's crazy. He's still active as well. He was the champion. What's a crazy statistic is Jon Jones was champion 12 years ago, and he still is. He was champion 12 years ago, and to this day, he's still champ. That's crazy to me. He's had such a long career, and this is why, in my opinion, he's the greatest of all time. He wasn't just the greatest of a period. He wasn't just the greatest within like a period of 5 years or 6 years. Ever since he joined the UFC to now, he's always been the greatest. He's never really gone at a downfall. He's never really had tricky situations in his career. Like, for example, Anderson Silva, his rise in the UFC and his prime in his UFC, he was amazing, but then his last end of his career, he fell off, whereas Jones didn't have that fall off. I know he took a couple of years off, but genuinely his entire career has been good for him. He's been a champion in 2 different weight classes, not simultaneously, but light heavyweight and heavyweight, and he's defended it. He's probably going to defend in the heavyweight as well, but he's defended it in light heavyweight before, and he is, in my opinion, the greatest of all time and the greatest American of all time. So yeah, that is my list of the top 5 greatest American fighters of all time. Please let me know if you agree or I missed anybody out. But yeah, let me know your takes. Thank you for watching.